If you are watching this at the time of publishing, most of you are probably wondering, what the gubbins is Orbis? Where is my review of Root? And what on earth is going on with this artwork? More on that later. In Orbis, you are a god so young that you don't even know what god you are yet yourself. But this omnipotent identity crisis won't stop you from doing your most important job: creating a universe.
That sounds really exciting, Elaine. But what is this game really?
Well, Orbis, to use some of the mildest bland board gaming jargon, is a tile placement tableau drafting game.
Oh my god, no, just speak English.
I'm getting to it! Like I said, Orbis is a tile placement tableau drafting game. Within only 15 rounds, or about 45 minutes to an hour, on your turn you will select a tile from the middle of the table that is maybe a lush forest or what I can only assume is a flying volcano, and place it in your universe. If you are clever about how you place them, they will score you points. Have the most points at the end of the game, and you are the best at being God. Each round you can only take one tile, and so after 15 of them, because of placement rules, you will have something that ends up looking exactly like this.
A pyramid with a god tile on top of it. That almost sounds Masonic, which I suppose is apt because much like ignorantly getting yourself into a cult, it very quickly turns into something unexpectedly vicious. Each tile you place not only has to conform to geometrical rules of a two-dimensional pyramid, but if you're placing a tile on top of others, it has to match one of the colors underneath it. Sounds simple, right? Oh my sweet summer child, how could you have known? How could you have anticipated that a simple color matching puzzle could turn into something so fiendish, so devious, and so engrossing? Your first rounds will be simple. The bottom layer allows for any tile to be placed, so that's fine. The second layer is only a little trickier as you have to match a color, but that's also manageable. But as soon as the second layer is filled in, you realize that one of the game's colors is no longer available to be placed, and you find yourself being squeezed out of options like an empty tube of divine toothpaste. And of course, just placing tiles is literally pointless. Each tile has an ability, but calling these abilities is like calling Samuel L. Jackson's character from Unbreakable a superhero. Some of them will give you worshippers, which is the game's currency, more on that later, but the majority will ask you to fulfill a condition when you place it. If you can manage it, you're fine. You're a cool sausage.
This is how my first game of Orbis went. There was a god tile that granted extra points for irrigation tiles. Great, I thought to myself, I'll just do those. All it asks is to have a tile of the same colour directly underneath it. What could be easier than that? But notice that the tile itself also has a colour, meaning that what it actually wants is for you to have two specific colours underneath it. All irrigation tiles themselves are blue, so by having multiples, I was effectively plugging my colour slots with blue, and blue. And then when it came to placing other tiles on top, I had like two colours going. Needless to say, I felt less like a cool sausage and more like a farty frankfurter. It's not bad. Here's the really funny thing, however, besides fart. Most tiles have an additional cost to take. The game calls them worshippers, we all know them as wooden cubes. But not only do you pay worshippers when you take the tile, but you seed each tile adjacent to it with worshippers of the colour of the tile you took. Because the worshippers on the tile can be used to pay for the cost of the tile itself, you're now not only worrying about what tile you want, what other tiles you're giving up, can you actually place it legally, will it score you points, but also about what other tiles you're making free for your opponent. That's nuts!
I wouldn't really put frankfurters and nuts in the same video together. It sets a low tone.
And the farts are fine.
Yes. The farts are fine. Okay, I get the tension and the appeal, but so far it sounds a little bit restrictive, like a visit to your grandpa. At first you're excited, but then he's all, don't do this, don't touch that, just shut up, sit down and eat your... I really don't want to say sausage. Orbis is in the lighter spectrum of games, in the vein of Splendor or Azul. A puzzle that is easy to teach, is immediately appealing, and has constantly unraveling layers of depth that surprise and delight you. The problem with trying to recreate Splendor in a bottle is that sometimes you can just crank that wrench one step too far and make it just a little bit too tight, too rigid, and maybe not very fun. Which
has all been a big lead up to the mechanism that makes Orbis at least as good as the stellar games it builds upon. Anytime that you take a tile and can't, or more importantly, don't want to pay for its costs or can't put it in a legal spot, you can flip that tile over. At the end of the game, it will score you a negative sausage, but wait! Now, for all purposes of this game, this tile counts as any colour. Trapped yourself with colours? No problem. For just one negative victory point and effectively a missed turn, you can now place anything you like. Remember that irrigation tile that will let you score points for placing it on top of the right colour? Well, now you can, because 1, it's blue, and 2, you will score points because it's also white.
There's an incredible moment that happens the first time you play Orbis. You think that wasteland tiles are for chumps, you think that you will be suave, never take a penalty, and manage the entire game like clockwork. But then you realize that the penalty isn't so much a penalty, it's a tool. It's like finding out that your grandpa has been secretly involved in underground mobility scooter drag races. Orbis is built with taking wasteland tiles in mind, and in that, it gives you just that incy bit of freedom and the ability to go wild. Like literally wild. Because it's any color, get it? So Orbis is great, and you should especially get it if you're looking for a board game to get your friends or your family, even your granddad, into board gaming. It's light and breezy and crunchy at the same time, like a garlic crouton with a bit of zest.
So what, that's it?
Yeah, actually, I think that's it.
Should we just end it there then?
Well, now that you mention it, Columbo, there's just this one thing. Oh my god, my eyes! What I really don't want to do is diminish the work that the artist has put into the game. And you know what? The artwork on some of the tiles themselves is stellar, with tiny little details like these wonderful pink flamingos or baby Shep and a fox that's just about to eat them. I blame publishing and developmental decisions, and Orbis doesn't deserve this because it's clearly an excellent game, and I feel bad about saying it, but someone has to, and I understand why you would want to put this freemium mobile phone game art aesthetic onto your board game, but I implore you, please stop. See, the great thing about board games is that we get to own them, and as vain as cliched as the Calyx shelf is, it's such a proud moment in our life as board game enthusiasts. Board games can be touched, they can be felt, they can even be cuddled if one so desires. And that's what pushes us towards them. When we convince our friends to sit down and try these games with us, we don't want them to feel like we'll open the cover and they'll have to spend £1.50 on some gems or a loot box.
I get it. We're hoping that the thing that drove them to play a board game with us in the first place was to get away from it. But should that stop people enjoying Orbis, it's still a good game. And if we can forgive Concordia for its slightly outdated artwork, surely we can forgive Orbis for its misguided attempt at being contemporary.
Yeah, sure.
Wait, no, surely there cannot be another one more thing. That's too many one mores.
It really is. And once again, I don't feel like Orbis deserves this. Because very much like garlic croutons and frankfurters, it is entirely a matter of taste. But here is the thing. As tight as this puzzle is, we have found that sometimes the winner of this game can be very much determined at a flip of a tile. I love drafting games. I love being told, look, here's all the things, you can take one now, but wait, because here's all these other things, and you need to figure out what the other players want, what they're likely to take away from this pool, and what will bounce back to you. And to an extent, that is present in Orbis, but at the same time, someone will flip a tile that will either make or break your game, and they will spot it and immediately destroy it by making it a wasteland. So many times I've played a game where someone would flip a tile that isn't just a perfect fit for you, but is the game-winning acquisition, and I didn't even have a chance to interact with it, because by the time it came back to my turn, it was gone. It is an incredibly minor thing, a complaint most people won't even care about, a blemish that will be cherished because it provides just that sprinkling of luck that's needed to produce an ooh, or an ah, or a casting of the gods. Really, Orbis is great, so don't listen to me and get it, except there's one more thing. If you press me to the wall and ask me if I honestly think this is as great as the games like Azul or Splendor that it emulates, I would have to say yes, it is about 95% as great. So if you haven't got Azul or Splendor yet, maybe get those first. But if you do have them and you're looking for a distraction, this will prove to be a very colorful one. If you enjoyed our video, then am I crushing you?
No.
Good. Then you can like it, and you can also subscribe to our channel, and you can watch other videos. But if that doesn't convince you, then here is a kazoo outro.